This podcast is a 98 Studios production.
Today's the day, baby. Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Today's the motherfucking day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Anderson, and today is going to be a fun episode. I can tell already. I love your vibe. Before we get into anything, Mr. Richie Norton, I want to say thank you. I know you're a busy man. You don't live here, so making the time to be here means a lot to me and everybody else watching. I appreciate you big time.
Dude, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. We're gonna have so much fun. I don't know why we're not already holding hands already. You know what I mean? Let's just do it. We need a love right there.
Exactly. Thank you.
We're too far away. We should be closer.
I know. We should do a bench. Let's do a bench seat, like the combined love sacks. We could do one of those. I think that's perfect.
Right.
Dude, I'm excited. I'm excited to chat. Every time I have someone on, I do a little bit of stalking on them. I go look any literature they have, anything on their social media, and I just go try and get to know them a little bit. But with you, as far as like your story, I still feel like I don't know your story, so I'm excited. Yeah, that's like my favorite. And then I love your ideas behind everything, so I'm excited to dive into it. But before we get into everything, for the sake of myself and everybody else, let's go through your story. Let's learn who is Richie, where are you from, how were you raised, how'd you come up, what were the big bullets, and then get to currently where you're at. Talk a little bit about where you want to go, and then your ideas behind a couple things.
Yeah, I'm from San Diego, born and raised. I had awesome parents. I look back. It's weird, as you get older, you start looking back and you go, what did they do? What was happening? Honestly, I think about it, and someone asked me, like, how did your parents raise you or whatever? And I was like, it's kind of like being a kite on a string. Like, I felt like I was out there doing whatever I wanted. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they had me on the string that I didn't even realize that kept me, grounded. In other words, there's they really trusted me. You know what I mean? So I was able to grow up.
You had a lot of freedom, but
that.
They weren't going to let something crazy happen to you. That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So San Diego, what was it like growing up? What did your parents do? How many siblings did you have? What was your experience? If you go back to being a kid, what was it like?
Sure. Yeah. I'm the oldest.
Cool.
I have a brother and two sisters. We're all 2 years apart. And it was a good time, man. We live kind of near a creek. There were crawdads in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Go hike the mountain. And then, the ocean's not too far away. So I grew up going to the beach, going surfing. I was in high school, I was in a punk rock band.
Yeah.
And I played guitar and sang. I was super into baseball, so I was a pitcher in high school and that kind of stuff.
Okay, let's go.
But I'll tell you this. One time I told my dad when I was 16 that I wanted to make money.
Yeah.
And he's like, you don't want a job. And he's like, what are you talking about, Dad? What do you mean I don't want a job? I'm like, what a weird guy. But he said, no, dude, you're gonna spend your whole summer doing this thing. He said, why don't you go to El Centro, which is 3 hours away from where we live, which is way down by the border, and ask the watermelon farmers if you can buy their irregular sized watermelons, weird sized watermelons they couldn't get into the grocery stores. And I'm
the ones with weird lumps
that's
on them.
so weird. You know what I mean? But me and my brother, we did it, gave us a little seed money, and it wasn't much. It was just literally these are kind of things they throw away, right? So just whatever. But we filled up our little family van full of these watermelons, and it was fully low riding all the way home. Sold them on the 4th of July to friends and family and our friends' parents. Dude, we made more money in one day than we would have made working the entire summer. And that's when I realized, again, I'm looking back, I was like, that's when I realized, you don't have to trade your time for money.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to, I love that. And I saw that story and I like that story, but I have a couple questions going into that story. First and foremost, for you, you're 16, you're a pitcher in high school. Why do you even care to go get a job? What was the motive behind hey, Dad, I want to go get a job? Where did that even come from?
I think I just wanted to feel like I had control. I had freedom. I just wanted a little pocket change. Just
some independence.
Just wanted some money. Just wanted some independence.
Cool.
But the first thought was always go get a job.
Yeah.
The alternative was to pick up trash at the fair, at the carnival, at the local whatever county, whatever it was, And he was like, no.
So then why, I mean, why did he have that perspective already? He was just a cool dad that looked back and he's like,
Super
dude,
cool
at 16,
dad.
you got to have a good time. Like,
Yeah, that's a good point. But he was an entrepreneur himself.
oh, was
You know,
he cool?
so he thought that way.
Yeah.
And so, and I realized later that not everybody thought that way. And I was like, what, you don't think this way? And I was, why don't I think this way? You know,
Yeah.
and I realized it's just part of the environment, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Which honestly, that's why I love doing podcasts and stuff like this, because you realize like, it's really cool to hear different perspectives from different people, because you can learn so many different, I don't know, lifetimes, you know, of knowledge, information from other people, and then apply it if it applies.
If
to
it
you,
applies,
you know?
100%. You don't have to go through. Hopefully, if you're a good learner and not too stubborn, you can go and learn from other people's mistakes, so you don't have to go and have those problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So, I mean, you said your dad was an entrepreneur. What did he do while you were growing up? Like, was he around a lot? Did he have that same philosophy as you that you came to grasp?
You ask the coolest questions.
I
Who
appreciate
are
that.
you,
I
dude? This
appreciate
is
that.
awesome.
I'm just curious. I'm
Like,
curious.
This is what you want to know
and I
about.
have a very short train of thought. So the second I think of
All
something,
right,
it comes
man.
out.
Well, okay, so he was an entrepreneur. He had several different businesses, and also in real estate. He did, you know, real estate, things like that. But like, he also did weird stuff. I got to be honest. Like, he always looked for ways to help other people work their way out of a difficult situation. So if there was someone in our community that like lost their job and they were a mechanic, he'd figure out how to start a mechanic shop
To employ them.
or really just help them.
That's dope.
Teach them how to own it themselves.
That's really dope.
And do it. At one point, there was another time he started like a batting cage for real, you know, and we're just like hitting balls and, you know, playing video games and doing whatever. But
that's dope.
any money he made, most of it was probably from real estate, but any money he made was from thinking, I'm not kidding. He really was this way. He still is this way, but how can I help that person overcome that challenge?
Yeah.
And it ended up through a business, because then it could help them for a while.
That's way cool. So then growing up, I mean, as I think about that, I think about someone when you're in that realm, like the counterpart to being so creative and so entrepreneurial is and like, I guess what could be viewed as negative or unpleasant is like, it's usually all consuming. Like, to go and do that many things, like as you're explaining, I'm sitting there thinking like, dude, I don't even know if I could manage that. And I'm already spending all my time doing this. Right. And I love your theory. We haven't gotten into it yet, but I love your theory on time and the worth of it. Was there any downside to that with your dad? Like, was he always working and you saw that?
No.
And that's part of, or
no. He chose the way he made sure he was always with us. He always chose to be our coach.
That's dope.
In, you know, in whatever sports we were, even if he didn't play him, even if he didn't know really like what was going on, like he's like, I'm gonna be their coach, because in that way he was always there, you know, and we talk about it and it was a thing. No, he was
so
always
rad.
around, man.
That's so rad. That's so cool.
And of course my mom was incredible.
Yeah.
And she was always there. Her philosophy was she wanted to be at the crossroads of our lives. So we're like, you know, we're there in the morning, we're there when we get home from school. Like, I gotta be honest. Anyone who listens, they're like, "Oh, you got great parents." Like, I do, dude. Sorry, like I can't apologize.
Oh, yeah,
like,
no, that's
it's not a sad story.
No, I love hearing it. I love hearing it, because two things that like those are just really cool ideas that I'm sure people just don't think about. Everyone who's a dad wants to spend all the time in the world with their kids, but sometimes they don't feel like they can. Everyone who's a mom wants to be as involved as they can, but even those little things are so cool to think about. Like, oh, if I'm their coach, they kind of have to spend some time with me, and they kind of have to have like this like coach player mentality, which is also like a father-son mentality. So you develop that relationship on top of it. And then a mom, it's like, if you're there for the crossroads of like, hey, when are they waking up to go to school? When are they getting home? Because my mom was really good at that too. And I've never thought about it that way. It's really cool. I like that a lot.
Oh, cool.
I like that a lot. So you learned at 16, how valuable was it for you to learn that right before your summer, when your dad helped you go and like realize like, oh, don't go trade your summer to go have a little bit of freedom, which actually doesn't give you freedom because you'd be working 5 days a week. Go find a way to get what you want without giving up what else you want, right? Have both.
Yeah, what's crazy is at the time, I don't think I even realized the lesson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think I realized what was happening. I was just like, well, that was so weird and that was so cool. You know what I mean? It was like it was like one of those kind of things. But it did give me the freedom to think, if I need something, there's a way to figure it out, and it doesn't have to be the way everybody else is doing it. You know, and so I really was. I was in a punk rock band growing up.
Hey, we got a music studio back there.
Let's go jam.
Zach can give you something. You can go get something done. I like it.
And we would play, shows like all over San Diego. And one time we had a show in Mexico down in Tijuana, and my dad came. I'm glad he did, because our all of our stuff was stolen. Like,
No.
we had no way to get home.
I was gonna say a punk rock concert down in Mexico.
It
I
was
like
crazy,
that.
dude. But yeah, that's what we were doing. So we were always just being creative and finding ways. What was actually cool about, doing shows and practicing and writing songs and being in the studio and those kinds of things was actually getting in front of crowds, like live crowds, and like seeing like, oh, what do people like? What do they don't like? What's the vibe? How does this work? And then bringing it back in, like, know that, dude. It's like, it's so much fun, man.
That's so cool. Learning to read a room, read emotions, and
Yeah.
like act accordingly. I love that. It's
But
awesome.
it felt like all fun. But then look, I'm an entrepreneur myself now. Looking back, it's like, wait, that also taught me a million different things, like all the way.
Like the things you don't usually learn that you
Yeah.
have to learn as an adult when it's already way too uncomfortable. And a lot
Totally.
of people just never end up learning it
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Right.
That's true.
That's rad. That's really, really cool. So then you go through high school. It sounds like you had a great high school as well. Good experience, had a lot of fun, right? Playing in a band, playing sports, doing your thing, like had entrepreneurial creative mindset. And then you get into like the adult life. So my question for you is, what was that when you're graduating high school? Take yourself back to that place of like, okay, what was your plan? What was like your life plan? Or did you even have one? Were you just kind of living for the next day?
I'll be super real. So after high school, I did a year of college, and the plan was, just keep playing music and have fun. And we were offered a 5-year contract from some label out in San Francisco, but I decided to go on a mission, and that was a big decision for me. And so I served in Brazil and learned Portuguese.
Let's go.
And dude, but I was in an area. It was way up north, like right by the equator. Like it was so hot. Like you'd get a tan, like you get a Thai tan. Like it would be like
through your
through your
shirt.
shirt, dude. And then when I came back, I went to school at BYU Hawaii. But when I was there, I saw so much poverty. I'm like, it was wild. And I thought, how can I, that same kind of idea, even as I'm telling you, I'm thinking through it now. I don't even know if I've thought about it this way before, but I thought, how can I help these people in poverty at some point in my life, whether it's now or later, work their way out of poverty? And I was like, they're awesome. They're talented. They just might not have like the resources or people, whatever it is to get it out. So when I got home and I was at BYU Hawaii, I met people there's students there from over 70 different countries.
Yeah.
So it's this little small school. Anyways, I thought, am I going to wait till I'm 65 and retired? Because that's kind of the American mentality, at least it has been.
Yeah.
Am I going to wait till I'm 65 and retired to then go back and help people? And then I thought, what if I could do it now?
Mm-hmm.
And then the thought is, well, how do I feed my family? How do I make money? How do I do all these kinds of things? But I thought, if I wait, if you're in your 20s and you wait till your 60s to do something, people don't think that's freaking 40 years. That's like if someone's born now and then they have a kid in their 20s and then another. I mean, we're talking 2 or 3 or more generations of people that you could potentially help.
Yeah.
And whether you could help them or not, I don't know. You can try. But at least waiting that long, no.
Yeah, for what? Like waiting for what? But on the flip side of that, it's like it takes a ton of courage to go and because I think, again, everyone loves the idea of going and helping people, or even if people are less selfless than that, they love the idea of going and starting something and doing like what they're passionate about, what they love. But on the flip side, you got to feed your family. You got to pay the bills. You got to have money, right? So people typically go and sacrifice these other things they want from this bucket for the things that almost they feel like they need. And I think it's a unique perspective to go and look at and be like, no, I can probably have both if I get a little bit creative with it. And it seems like that's how you think. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, totally.
That's really cool.
Like I fully believe that you can decide who you want to be, and then you can know what to do. If you know who you want to be, then you'll know what to do. Most people think, I have to do this thing. Imagine this. Whatever like we're doing here, wherever we are in our lives, it's all good. But wherever you live dictates like a giant part of your lifestyle, no matter what.
For sure.
You can't even think about it. So if you decide who you want to be and it allows you to figure out what you want to do, it also means you can find ways to get paid to be who you are, as opposed to defaulting to, I have to get paid. And then you become someone you never wanted to become.
For sure. And you fight it the whole way because you know what you want to be, but you are doing
You feel
something
that,
you
don't
you
you?
have to do. Yeah, yeah.
You do
100%.
that. You live that.
Yeah,
That's
everybody.
cool, man.
Yeah, yeah. That's really, really cool. I like that. So then you got home from your mission. How was your mission? You saw poverty. Like, how was that for you? That's like missions are really, really cool. And a lot of guests that we have on talk about it was a Mormon mission.
Yep.
That's amazing. A lot of people talk about their missions, and I think they're one of the coolest things ever. And the reason I think that, my idea behind it is the spiritual stuff aside, because I know it's so important and people get so much out of it. But outside of that, even it's like a passageway into adulthood. You literally have to go live entirely independent. When you served a mission, it was like you had very minimal contact with anyone other than the people that were doing exactly what you were doing.
That's true.
You have this structure that's military-esque, like it's gnarly, in a good way. And you just learn to go and like be completely independent, especially somewhere where you're surrounded by poverty, which may be not what you're used to.
Yeah.
Right. How was that experience in general? Was that like, holy crap? Was it like, okay, cool, just kind of rolling with it? What was that like?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved every second of it.
That's so
like
cool.
I went into it knowing that it would be hard. And I told myself before, I was like, if it's hard, I'm going to tell myself that I love it. Like it's fun. Like this is what I want it to be. You know, I just went into it knowing that. But what happens, whether you speak another language or you're in a crazy place, like whatever it is, what ends up happening is you just fall in love with the people and you start realizing people from all over the world, whatever race, religion, whatever situation they're in, you just like, that's my brother, you know, like that's my sister. Like, these are cool people.
Yeah.
It literally, it just changes everything, man.
That's so rad. That's really, really cool. And I hear that. That's a common thing on missions that you hear, which is so valuable because not very many people get to go experience something like that in their life. So that's really, really cool. So then you come back, you're at BYU, Hawaii. It's this melting pot. And you're having the thought of like, okay, how can I go help people now before I turn 65? Because that's kind of like the traditional way. Oh, shiz, I have to pay my bills along the way as well. And you're like trying to go and figure things out. And as a 19, 20, 21-year-old, that's kind of like a mind-boggling situation to be in. You seem like a pretty chill dude, so I don't think it got you too caught up. But walk me through that. Like, how was that process and how did you come to a conclusion? And then how did you go start moving forward with whatever you decided to do?
That's a great question. I think that at some point in time, can I just give you an example?
Please.
So I have a friend that he broke his leg surfing. Like the surfboard came down from the top and cut his leg basically in half, like broke his femur like crazy. He had like a shiny metal pole put in his leg, and he's back out surfing these giant waves in Hawaii later. And I asked him at one point, I said, dude, like, why? You know what I mean? Like I surf too, but like that's crazy. And he said, I said, aren't you scared?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, of course, we're all scared. We're all scared out there. And, well, why do you do it? He's like, it's fun. He said that. But also he explained that he couldn't see himself not doing that.
Mm.
And so when someone's like, what do I do when I'm scared? Everyone's like, well, you shouldn't be afraid, and you shouldn't do things based on fear. And you should just, be courageous and, love your life. But at the end of the day, the bigger fear gets you motivated. So for example, and this isn't for everyone, but for me, if I had to have freaking Bob the boss tell me I couldn't coach my kids' baseball team at 4:00 in the afternoon, that scares the crap out of me, dude.
Yeah.
That literally scares me so bad.
Yeah.
So I have to go hustle. Even if I'm not making money, even if it's ups and downs, even if it's whatever, it's just like, it's better than that.
Yeah, 100%.
Better than Bob, dude.
That makes perfect sense. I like that.
Screw you, Bob.
There's the bomb. There's the bomb right there. We don't mess with Bob. We don't like Bob.
Oh my god.
I love that. And I think what's so cool about that too, because typically the more scary something is, the better the reward is once you get through it, right? And it's like, and I think that's a really good way to navigate it. But I also think it gets overlooked. What you just said gets overlooked so much that like the comfortable thing is almost scarier if you really actually think about it, right? It's like, what is this saying? I'm trying to think of the one-liner that's basically, it says like the cost of of not being disciplined is far, far, far greater than the cost of being disciplined, right? It just takes longer to see it. And I think that's a perfect example. It's such a unique way to look at it. Did you look at it when you were that young, like in college, figuring things out? Like, did you look at it that way of like, hey, this life might be scary, but I really don't want to live this life?
Yes, 100%.
So day one out the gates,
100%.
you were like, more power to me. I'm going to go do exactly what I want to do.
I'm totally open to learning and doing whatever, but I'm like, I'm not doing that.
so then I like that. So then straight out the gates, what'd you do? Like, what did you do right out the gates then? Like, you have and I love it. The reason I ask those questions is because it breaks down the mindset that you were in at that time. And it lets me know, like, okay, where were you standing? Now what?
Let me tell you, like when my wife and I first got married, so I met a person and we got married, right? Like, we didn't get to that part.
There you go.
So I got married. We didn't have any money. And Hawaii is expensive. And we were recycling cans, to get, I'm not pretending like it was like this crazy situation, but we had no money. We were going to college, and whatever. Yep. And we recycled cans to get like little pocket change for money or for gas or for whatever. And we, like, I knew the punk rock thing, so I'd throw shows in Hawaii, make a bunch of money, like do a Halloween party, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
like whatever. I was selling, this is so bad. I was selling like Otter Pops and candy to like kids after school, and I was like, someone's gonna kill me. Like, there's gonna be some weird dude like selling candy to kids,
Yeah,
so
legit. You did that?
Yeah, I think I stopped doing that after a day or two. But I was just like,
but you still went down that path.
I was just like, whatever it takes,
So you literally started like, answer me this. Was there a game plan, or was it just like, oh shit, dude, today I'm going to do this. Like, this sounds fun.
There's no game plan.
Okay, perfect. So you're in college. You're literally just, I actually love this. So to skip forward I'll ring it back in. The name of the podcast is Today's the Day.
Oh,
the whole point of it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The whole point of it is it's the theory that it's like yesterday happened.
Okay.
There's nothing you can do. Tomorrow hasn't happened, and it may never happen.
Totally
so today's kind of all you've got. You were like, the reason I bring that up so early, because usually that's at the end of the podcast. You were like the walking epitome of like, what am I gonna do today? And then you would go do something different to go and do what you had to do, because you had to pay the bills. You can't not, right?
You got things to do.
At what point did that become, or did it ever become more structured, or is that how you've lived to get to where you're at to this point?
Okay. So
Help me understand.
There were times where I took like a little like job, like washing dishes or being like a cleaner guy, in the middle of the night for some, so you do whatever you can do. But I'll tell you this is the idea of that bigger dream. Okay. I met a lot of people that said in Hawaii, they wanted to go back to whatever country they were from, but they didn't think, it's like, now it's a theme. Oh my gosh, you're turning this into a theme. This is so good. But there were no jobs like where they're from. And it wasn't that they didn't want to be in the States. They love it. It's just that they would rather be with their family.
Yeah.
Just there's no jobs.
Yeah.
This is a real thing for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, what if they could like, I don't know, figure it out through entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
And I had this idea. Anyways, long story short, my first company was a social entrepreneurial business. Social entrepreneurship means you're doing it. It makes money. It's not a nonprofit, but it is for the people.
Okay.
The idea is help them work their way out of poverty. And the idea wasn't wait till I'm 65 and screw, 3 or 4 generations of people over, like go and do it now. I met some people from Mongolia. Sounds so random. It is random. I went to Mongolia and we started a cashmere company with a family in Mongolia. When I went there, I don't know what it's like. No, there's not even a McDonald's there. This place is remote, man. Awesome too, by the way. Greatest people. And that starting this cashmere company, it was crazy because it actually inspired me and a lot of other people who heard about it to think, oh, I can do something like that. I'm going to fast forward here. Okay. I started doing these little social ventures all over.
So like they were just area specific things. So you'd go out,
but they were
with
based
them
around people. So if someone had an idea, like this is the thing. And it wasn't that I had all the money in the world to do this, obviously. I would find others, mentors, and other donors, those kind of things to bring in money. Here's what's important. You know how I said earlier, once you decide who you want to be, you'll know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
When I decided I want to be the kind of guy that's going to be there for their family and not wait to help out other families, this is what showed up.
Because you decided first who you want to be.
I decided who I want to be.
Yeah.
No matter how. But when you decide who you want to be and you don't accept all the things, you can do what you got to do to make it work. When you don't accept something like substandard, let's put it that way, you actually find ways to make it happen. And it actually usually looks like another person in a positive way, like this person knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if you have something in mind that you can do, those people will want to help you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They gather.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So business all over the Asia Pacific Rim. And eventually it turned into a Center for Entrepreneurship at BYU Hawaii because there wasn't one.
No way.
And the reason that was important to me is because I had submitted this idea to the School of Business. And the School of Business said, Richie, you're an idiot. There's not enough details. You could never do that. Your plan fails. And I was like, oh, I'll show you. So I went out and did it anyways. And it actually turned into a Center for Entrepreneurship that still exists today.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
Isn't that
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you're doing all, that's dope, first off. That's
Sure.
really, really cool. And you said a few things that I really like. Like you said, if you figure out who you want to be and something that you want to do, people will flock to help make it happen. That's 100% in my experience so true.
Totally.
People at the top, like the people who financially who have found success, all like they're driving forces. They want to go help people. And I had a really cool piece of advice from my first mentor ever. He said, and he was the one that actually got me interviewing people, which turned into Zack reaching out and this turning into a podcast because I wanted to interview people on camera. He said, if someone's truly successful in their life, they will make time for anybody who reaches out to pick their brain for 30 minutes. It might take a few times to make it happen. They might have a crazy schedule, might be 3 months out, but they will make time. If someone doesn't have time, they're not actually successful enough, because part of success is having the time to do what you want. And everybody has an innate desire to go and give. And like that, like I have interviewed some crazy people that I have no business interviewing, even way before the podcast, like 5 years before, where I get their number. I get someone who knows them's number from someone I know, and then I get their number from that person. And they're like, who is this kid texting me asking for this other person's number? And then I reach out and then I'm at lunch with them and I'm this 19-year-old kid that knows nothing and
there you go.
Whatever, right?
That's
so
it.
You're absolutely right. People will 100%. The right people will try and be a part of helping out, which is really cool.
100%.
So as you're going through that, you're like changing people's lives, and you made it sound so nonchalant when you said started all these businesses all over.
Yeah.
Was it literally and also social entrepreneurship is a new word for me as well, or a new idea for me as well. Was it literally like, hey, how did you even express to people like, yeah, if you need help starting a business, like I'll help out? And then what did you do to go help make it happen other than bringing in the capital?
I'm just so excited. Like when someone tells me they have this idea and I'm like, oh my gosh, you should totally do that. That's awesome. Right? Like, let's go. And so at that point, but I realized obviously that wasn't enough just to be like, yeah, you could do it. Although it helps. It does help. It does help a ton.
Very valuable.
But the ones that were like, yeah, like this is a thing I want to do. No, I got serious and I was like, okay. I don't think just because I don't know how or I don't have the means, I don't believe that doesn't mean I can't do it.
Yeah.
I think that's a lie.
Yeah.
Who does, if you only do everything you know and you have a means for it, like you're still like you're a baby. Like,
Yeah,
like, what are you talking about?
100%.
We can learn, man.
Yeah.
So I think if there's something they need, I can go find someone or I can learn.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I didn't.
Well, it goes along. It goes along with your theory of figuring out what you want to be, and then you figure out how to do it. And what
That's right.
It's the same exact theory. Sorry to cut you off, but
No.
100%.
I mean, the idea is that you can be the architect of your life. Architects don't build buildings; they draw them.
Mm-hmm.
General contractors don't even pick up a hammer if they don't want to, and they'll build 100 houses. So when you decide like where you fit and what you want to do, that just means that you can actually make anything happen if you're willing to, I don't know, unite people to a common cause.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really, really cool. So you go and accomplish that. Now they have that center opened. It's at BYU Hawaii, you said, right?
Yeah,
It's still
man.
to this day open.
Still there.
When did that go and open? And what was that like? That moment of like, oh yeah, they're starting, and it came from something that I went and kind of like built out, even though everyone told me it was not right. Like, was that, again, you seem like you live so in the moment. These questions might not be the most effective. I apologize, but it's just my curiosity.
This
Like,
is
dude, was it
no,
like
I
a
appreciate the
massive,
opportunity to share about it and think about it.
massive victory?
So when there was no like running around with a flag, like, you know what I mean? There was no parade.
Yeah, right. That's okay. That's okay. There could have been.
But I'll tell you this: like the president of the university, President Shumway at the time, started taking the pictures from these trips and these people and putting them up all over the university and sharing them with, you know, the people that kind of run the school and sharing them with other donors.
And how was that for you? Were you like,
They kept putting me in front of people to tell my story.
yeah,
I was amped.
yeah. I mean,
I was
hey,
just like,
that's
this
a
is cool.
that's a very fair time to be amped. That's awesome.
I'm not that it's not scary or weird, but just like, yeah,
And when was
it's
that?
cool.
When did it open?
Yeah, no, okay, so this started like, this is gonna date me, but I went to Mongolia in 2004.
Okay,
It was wild back then.
I believe that.
You weren't even born yet.
I believe that. I was 5 years old. I was 5.
Okay,
I was 5 years old.
I'm a child of the 80s. Okay.
There you go.
All right. So I go, and in 2004, it's now in like newspapers. There's like pictures. There's kind of things, and now it was more like volunteers. So like people at the school started like running it, and I would help. And they start doing like, I don't know, their own little contest to see who could help other people to start their idea.
Yeah.
And over time, I would teach there and help out. And then at some point, I started getting more professional and hiring real professor type people that kind of made it a little academic and doing their thing and all that, bro. But like the thing is like, this is the concept. It's called a processional effect. A procession is like a parade. Like one thing leads to another. You don't always know like where you're going to end up necessarily in this parade, but you know that when you do one good thing, hopefully it'll turn into one more good thing. And if it turns into a bad thing, you know what? Just try and find another good thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you experiment, and if it works, move forward. If it doesn't, move on.
I like that. Say that one more time. That's fire. I like that.
All right. You experiment. If it works, move forward. If it doesn't, move on.
Boom. That's a bomb right there, Z. I love that. So that was over a course of how many years did it take for that to be what was occupying your time? And then has that been what you've been doing
No.
since?
No,
or have you
no.
gone through?
I live life simultaneously. There's like a million things going on at the same time.
I love that. That's endless stories. I love it.
I think of life, and I think of work as projects. Projects have a beginning and an end. They can succeed or they can fail. I also think you can do multiple projects at the same time. I don't mean multitasking. I just mean you have different sections of your life or your ideas, and you can also get people excited about them and do it. I also mean it like this. This is kind of weird, but if you think of like 4 projects, a personal one, a professional one for your people, and one that's play. I call it the 4 Ps. And you stack it. So instead of it being like this long thing where you have to do it, you literally stack it. I ask myself, what's the one thing I can do to make all these things happen at the same time? How can they all help at the same time? The idea is, how do you rescue your dream from the end of a timeline? Because everyone has a timeline. We learned it in kindergarten, right?
For sure.
So how do I rescue my dream from the end of a timeline and bring it front and center? It's like a castle and then a moat. Most people spend their time in the moat and never reach the castle. But if you begin with the castle, then your moat, the work you do, will support your life and your lifestyle.
Yeah.
As opposed to endlessly working toward it. It's a totally different way of thinking and totally different way of living.
I like that a lot. And it's very, very, it's a foreign way of thinking for sure. It's very out of the ordinary. And my question for you, like, as I'm thinking, if you don't mind, like just to pry at the theory and figure out like, okay, cool. Cause I love that.
Yeah.
Thinking that way could be incredibly valuable. What if you're trying to find that one thing that accomplishes something in every one of those in the whole person paradigm perspective of life, but you can't, or you're struggling to go and find it? Is it just like, oh, just keep trying stuff until it works out? And that might also be the wrong way to look at it. That might be a super like pessimistic, over realistic, like, yeah, pessimistic way to look at it. Are you just like, no, dude, that that is pessimistic? Like what
No,
would you
that's
say
great.
to it? Yeah.
Think of it like this. Like, what's the one decision you can make that make a bunch of other good things happen? A lot of people will choose a bunch of little things, and the thing they really want doesn't actually happen.
Yeah.
Like my dad deciding to be my coach. That was one decision he had to make that made a bunch of really good things happen.
Got it.
Made him have to leave work, stop work, be here, be engaged, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're because we only have so much time in the day, you can only do so many things. You're basically finding the way that you feel is the right way to prioritize the decisions you make with your time.
Yeah.
Right. So that the decisions that you make with your time are all encompassing to every area of your life rather than going and getting so engulfed. And I like the way you look at work as well. I didn't even touch on that, but like their projects, rather than getting so engulfed in your work that you don't have time for everything else.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Well, let me tell you a story. Okay.
Yeah,
Just so you know where I'm coming from.
Let's hear it.
So during all this time, even these things that we just talked about. So my brother-in-law lived on and off with us for like 5 years. He passed away in his sleep at the age of 21. Out of nowhere.
What in the world?
Like as if it was like a natural thing, but like so unnatural. Like what in the world just happened? And when that happened, that made me, without going super deep into that and the tragedy of that, it made me think, oh, I won't live until I'm 65. Maybe he didn't. It literally changed just the way I thought about the shortness of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, like, let me fast forward. A few years later, I have a bunch of kids. So we had our fourth son.
4 sons.
Okay.
Your house is rowdy.
Dude, it is wrestling matches all day long.
I love it.
So, but we named him Gavin after my brother-in-law. His name was Gavin. And this little baby brought us so much joy, but he got a cough. And we took him to the doctors and they said he'd be fine. Everything's cool. And we took him back because he was still coughing and they didn't know what it was. Eventually, they found out it was something called pertussis, also known as whooping cough. And long story short, it was too much on his little body. And I remember there was a night when a nurse came in to my wife and I and said, you guys should stay the night, which is a really weird thing to say because we obviously always stayed the night. But what she meant was like, this is it. And I remember my wife and I just like praying for a miracle, like praying that this wouldn't, destroy us and our family, just all the things, like you would never imagine, like it's your worst nightmare. But I also remember when they took out all the little wires of his little body and I held him for a second and handed him to my wife. And I'm trying not to get emotional here. She's just rocking him in this rocking chair. And I have my hand on his little heart. And I just wait for those last beats while singing lullabies. And we walked out of that hospital empty-handed. And someone asked, like, what did you learn, like, from your brother-in-law passing away, from your son passing away? And they came out with what I call Gavin's Law, which is live to start to live. Because when you live those ideas that are pressing on your mind, you really will start living. There's so many people walking around as if they're the living dead. Like you were saying, like, what if I don't have an idea? What do I do? How do I figure it out? It's like, you do. There are stupid ideas coming into your head all the freaking time. Do something with them. They're not actually stupid. It's just that you're scared. Right? Or you're procrastinating.
100%. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like when I start thinking about it that way, let me just keep telling you like what happened.
Yeah, please.
So after that happened, I started just doing things differently. Like, oh, I need to do it now. I might not have it later. And I also learned that like when you sacrifice what you love for success, you get neither. So many people will say, I'm going to wait all this time to do this thing that like I really want at the sacrifice of who I am or of my family or of my spouse or of who I want to be. They're not happy, dude. They're not happy. And they could be fat, rich, and happy at 65 years old in their red convertible, bald.
Stress makes you lose the hair. It's true.
And they have everything they thought they wanted, but they got nothing out of it. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
So this idea, like, and even the name of your podcast, like, it's so essential because you get to live multiple lives. Like if it doesn't work out, cool. If it does, instead of waiting many years to do it, you've now done it and you might like it or not. And then you get to do it again and again and again and do something different and you meet new people. Dude, we had foster kids. They came and went. They were so awesome. They were so cool. We had them for 2 years. We thought we'd have them forever. We thought we'd adopt them. And it didn't end up working out. They went back to Biomom, which was wonderful, but also terrifying because there's a reason.
Yeah, they were in foster.
And I'll tell you, dude, like the hurt of someone who's out there that you love and you don't know how they're doing hits different than like someone that passed away. Because when someone passes away, like you feel like there's a finality. I'm going to see him again, or whatever. No, man. It's this life. It's these living people.
Yeah.
These are the ones we got to take care of.
I love that, dude. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. That's great. Like, that's exactly right. And well, you hit on so many things. That's gold. Like that's actually the point, frankly, like the point. And Tony, I don't know if you care for Tony Robbins at all, but Tony Robbins, literally like one of my favorite things ever is the greatest failure. And this changed the way that I looked at things, and it helped me see it similar to the way that you're explaining things, at least when I'm in the right state of mind. The greatest failure is success without fulfillment. And I didn't really understand it, didn't know, but then I would go and I'd hang out with like I had very like financially diverse friends, meaning some of my friends' parents made incredible money. Some of my friends' parents made no money. Like,
sure.
And then I started to notice, and then as I'm an adult and I have new friends, or as I get to meet people in business, I find people where business speaking, they're so successful. And then they start talking about their like home life. And I'm like, like I don't want that at all. Right. Some of them incredibly successful and have a great home life. Of course, that's the goal, right? That's for sure. But then I go and I have friends where it's like, yeah, their dad, like he's done whatever he does. And like he prioritizes things way over making sure they can go have that convertible. He's driven the same truck the whole time I've known him, fixed it 9 times. Probably cheaper to just buy a different truck, frankly.
Seriously.
But anyway, but his home life is incredible, and he has more fulfillment from my view, right? And I can't speak for anyone, but the way that I'm like taking it in is that. And like, dude, that's exactly right. That's really cool.
The trick is, this is something that people have to think about, is value your time. Don't time your values. So people will time their values. One day I'll do this. When this happens, I'll finally be able to do that. That is not the way to do it, man. You value your time.
I love that.
That is the way.
It's like you were meant to come on this podcast.
Dude, I love
you,
bro. You're so awesome.
I'm loving it. You're just reinforcing the name of the podcast. I love it. So like, dude, your journey's so fun. I've got a million questions that are just idea, but as far as your story, now where are you at? Now, I mean, you have a mayhem of a household, I assume. Right. Okay. Well, kids are getting older. Like, where are you at now?
So I live in Hawaii.
Yep.
I just walk my dog on the beach every day. I work on my projects. Hang out with my kids, and life's good. Honestly, it's actually come full circle. My oldest is on a mission in Angola, Africa, speaking Portuguese.
Holy cow!
So now I talk to him in Portuguese.
Let's go!
It's the weirdest thing in the world.
That's so strange.
I got a son over at UVU. I got a son over at BYU Hawaii. Son that passed away. I visit him sadly, the graveyard has become our playground. We're there all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the foster kids are, but wherever you are, I love you. Like it's all good. But like, here's the thing, dude. Like, your life in the next 20 years is going to change so much. You're not even going to recognize who you are today.
Yeah.
This is real though, but for better or for worse, it needs to be an intention. Think about who you were. I know you're a young dude, but think about who you were 10 years ago. Different person, different situation, different ideas, different thoughts. In 10 years, you and I, all of us, will be different people, whether we do anything or not. If it's going to be that way, you might as well do it intentionally.
That's such a good point. That's a really, really good point. And like one of my mentors, I love one-liners. My brain's not the biggest. I can't hold too much in, but one-liners are really easy for me to hold in. Sometimes I don't remember them, obviously. But Jeff Mendez, he always says, live life by design. And basically, like, don't go through life in default, because exactly how you're saying, you're going to be a totally different person. Your life is going to be totally different. design it.
Yep.
Don't let it be by default.
Yeah. So people ask me questions like, how'd you do it? What'd you do? And I'm just like, I'll just tell you. So I wrote a book called The Power of Starting Something Stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Did really well. And that followed up with a book called Anti-Time Management.
Mm-hmm.
I just got once you go with a traditional publisher, it's in like all kinds of different languages.
Yeah.
So I just got these people from China. They just told me it's literally this week that it's in its 5th printing in China. And they're sending me 1,000 stickers that they want me to sign. Like, dude, life is so weird.
That's so wild.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like it's totally insane. That's not a plug for the book. I was just saying like that's what I do. Like
yeah.
Stuff just, you don't even imagine it happening. It happens.
Yeah.
But you have to follow that stupid idea that's pressing on your mind. If it wasn't important, it wouldn't keep coming back.
And I love that you answered my question with that. Like, I love that because it's so true. It's such a good answer, right? Like making myself sound dumb. It's like, well, dude, what do you do if you don't have any good ideas? It's like, well, then do one of the bad ideas.
There you go.
You have ideas. That was perfect. That was as good of an answer as you could come up with. I love that.
Yeah, it's good. But life's good, man. Like, again, for me, the goal has been now, how do I create space?
Yeah.
And we'll figure out what happens from there.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So a couple questions for you real quick, and I'll be respectful of your time in the studios. We're coming to the end of it. And you've been a blast, by the way, dude. You're
awesome.
Infectious. You're awesome.
Thanks so much.
You're so fun to
Shout
talk
out
with.
to Liquid Death.
I know. Get them to sponsor us. I know they're California. We've had a few people. We've had a few people hit them up for us. They're just playing hard to get, dude. And I don't met. So now we're paying for these things. Get them to sponsor us. But real quick, a few questions for you. And you've talked so much already about the philosophy of like the importance of now and everything like that, right? Which I love. How do you define success? Like, to you, what is it? If there's a way to define it and a way to describe it and explain it, what is it?
Can I just say there's a difference between happiness and joy? Happiness a lot of times comes from the outside and things you're doing. Joy comes from the inside regardless of circumstance. Happiness is often from circumstance. Joy is regardless of circumstance.
Got it.
So there's a lot of ways I could describe success, but I'll say my definition. Success to me is doing what you want, where you want, when you want. And I know that sometimes that means things are imposed on you that you really can't do any of those things. Like bad things happen, obviously. Yeah. You know what I mean? But having the success is then having the ability to assign positive meaning to your tragedies.
I love that. I love that. I think that's awesome. I guess that actually leads me into it kind of answers my next question, because I think people don't do that enough. But you're raising kids. They're getting to the point of being adults right now. Like they're part of my generation, or maybe the generation behind mine, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is something we're missing from what you can see from your perspective, your point of view? And every generation's missing things. Don't get it. Some people think I'm like, oh, like our generation's the worst, like reinforce that idea. No. We're amazing, and I know that. And your boys, I'm sure, are incredible. But what are we missing?
Okay. I'll say this. Your generation is the best generation that's ever come. And your kids' generation will be the best generation that will ever come. It should always be getting somehow better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything from way back in the day that was better than today. It'd be very hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We could argue it, but like no. Seriously. Okay. But then there's always the generations that rag on the younger generations for some reason. I'm like, you why would you do that? But that also kind of pushes you forward too a little bit.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, what? You know what I mean? So it's just part of the game. But to be honest, it's not unique to your generation. But I think the thing that's missing is, honestly, it's even the word you used. It is perspective. It is seeing people as they will be 20 years from now and treating them like they were that person in 20 years from now today. That is powerful. So when I see a kid making, in my opinion, choices that aren't in his or her best interest, I will then look at them in my mind as if they are 20 years older and do my best to treat them as that person. Why? Well, I actually would rather learn from a young person than a young person. I'd rather learn from a young person than an old person, right? Because sometimes it's outdated and it's cool to see what's going on right now. But when you treat someone and you think of them as older, you also give them the level of respect that they deserve where they are.
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of a paradox.
Yeah.
Because you just want to be respected. Like, I'm doing this thing. It's cool. Like, I'm making my own decisions. It's like, you are.
Yeah.
But I think it goes back to that idea of, let me say it one more way. You can't bake a cake without sugar and expect it to be sweet. Unless you're doing some keto thing, you know what I mean? You're putting some like sprinkles of something in it, right?
It's basically sugar
monk
anyways.
fruit
It's
thing
just
or
called
whatever,
something else.
Whatever it is. But meaning, if you bake in what you really want to do, who you really want to be, what you really are, if you bake that in from the start, then all this goodness you have with you now will grow up with you. You want to know what's sad? Is all these people that are younger, even my peers, you know, that are now older, and they didn't bake any of that stuff in, so now they're here thinking they can get it, and they can't. That is a tragedy.
I love that. And dude, it goes along. You are a themed person. It's not me making it themed. You're a themed person. You really are. And I like it. And your themes are really, really good. And like, they reinforce each other in a really good way. And I love it. And it goes back to everything you've been saying. Like, figure out what you want to be and be that.
Yeah, dude.
Everything else kind of works out.
Yeah.
Right. Or you'll make it work out. And you'll try things, and some things might not work out. And then some things will. And then you'll look back and be like, oh, I'm really glad that didn't work out, even though it felt like the end of it in the moment.
And you can change. Anybody can change, like the flip of a light switch, for better or for worse. It's just a matter of changing your mind. And people like Richie, people don't really know what I do. They're like, you do so many different things. Like, I didn't even mention I have a company. We make over 100 different products at any given time for all kinds of people making. We do stuff, right? Whatever it is. And I tell myself, like, you're like,
do
what?
stuff.
You do stuff.
I love it.
Don't put me in a box
That's very
until I'm
on
dead.
brand.
You know what I mean?
Hey,
Like,
that's
I'm just
very
gonna
on
make
brand.
it happen. You know?
I like that.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I
but
cut you
that's
off.
the idea, is you can change. And it's also okay to change for the better. And I mean, the quote that I was thinking is just, I just made it up one time on accident, but like, don't put me in a box until I'm dead.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I'll give you an example. I work with a lot of creators, and they're like, I have this channel. I can't do something else. Like, what's wrong with you? You can change. You can do a million different channels. Like, don't ruin your life over some dumb idea you had a long time ago. You can also take a new dumb idea and change your life.
And try it. That's so rad. I love it. I love it. I love it. Remind me the name of your 2 books. So you have 2 out right now.
One's called The Power of Starting Something Stupid.
I love it.
And the other one's called Anti-Time Management.
I love it. you like to cause a little disrupt in people when they go through the business section and see those, like, what the hell?
Yes.
I like it. That's awesome. That's great. So again, I want to be respectful of your time, everyone's time. So last question for you. And again, dude, thank you so much for coming on. You've been so freaking
you're
fun to
awesome,
chat
man.
with.
This is so fun.
You have been a blast.
Thanks, brother.
You seem like a legitimate master at what I believe is kind of one of the main purposes of life, which is learning to live in the moment. And that's why it's the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about it so much. Like, because even being young, I've seen people, once again, where they don't have exactly how you described joy. They don't have joy. They find happiness in some things, but they don't have joy. And I think it actually goes back to 2 things. Number one, they're never where their feet are. So be where your feet are.
That's good.
And then number 2, they're so scared of being what they actually want to be going into what they do, that they choose the route that maybe is way scarier long term.
Totally.
Right. So my question for you is, like, what advice do you have to anyone at any age to go and just approach life with today's the day mentality?
Dude, I'll tell you this. Nobody cares. Nobody cares, man. Nobody's gonna remember you. No one cares.
Yeah.
Like, literally, you remember what happened last week? You do not remember just because you recorded it. No one remembers anything. Just like someone's yelling at you and being mean, just think in your head, they're not gonna remember this a week from now. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there are situations where it does matter, but for most of our like stress and anxiety around the weirdness of life, nobody cares, dude.
Hey, that's the mic drop right there. That's perfect. I love that. No, I think it's incredibly valuable, dude. You're a blast. We'll have to do a part 2. We'll have to dive into the stuff that you do, because that's a perfect way to describe it. You do stuff. I still have no idea what you do, but I love that. And I think it actually goes and like supports who you are, which is really, really cool. But thank you so
Thanks,
much.
that was a good time.
Been a total blast.
Yeah.
Thank you to the studio as always. Thank you for your
studio.
time. And then everybody for watching. Thank you guys. Until next time, much love.